Hey, what's up, guys? This is MPFSU again with another update for the PS3 online Big Dynasty. And let's just go ahead and get right into it. Going into the top 25 polls. And right at the back, there's a change of the guard. You have Florida, who is now ranked number 1 after a huge win against LSU. They won 38-21 at LSU. They have Mizzou this week. Maybe a light week for them. We'll have to see how things fare if they can hang on to that number 1 ranking. Texas A&M is number 2, and then we have Stanford at number 3 and Texas in there at number 4. They are playing. They had a huge win against Oklahoma, 49-17, and now they are up to rank number 4. Now the next user. Well, first, look at this. Iowa. Iowa is ranked 7. Wow. 6-0. They're at Ohio State this week. That should be a huge matchup for Ohio State. Maybe that'll help them break it to the top 10. I mean, it probably will if they can get a win. Or Iowa can keep on winning and maybe have a shot to win the Big Ten. That'll be interesting. LSU drops down to number 4, obviously after the loss to Florida. They have a game at Mississippi. But let's back up for a minute and, before we get out of the top 10, and let's look at Florida and see what they've been up to. Let's see. So, looks like their most recent game against LSU, they had a nice tough win. They were able to hold Jeremy Hill under a few yards to seal the victory. Definitely kept LSU's offense off the field, and was able to pull out a huge win for them. Let's see, season-defining win, I would say. All right, although I hate that, but it is what it is. So, all right, moving on. Let's look at LSU. Looks like LSU actually had a nice win against Georgia at Georgia, won 24-20. That propelled them to the 4th ranking that you see that they had there. Also, they won at Mississippi State in like a shootout here, 52-31. And then there's the loss to Florida, 21-38. All right. Ohio State, they're just at the edge of the top 10 here, just making it at top. They're the 10th ranked team. They've done that with a huge win over Wisconsin. I mean, they really destroyed this team, 56-14. I got some highlights posted up. Episode 1, check that out if you want to see the Wisconsin highlights against Ohio State in that game. They also had a nice win against Northwestern, a pretty tough team in the shootout. Those are also in the highlights episode 1, so check that out. It should be posted there in my video section. Right below NCAA 14 video, so check that out if you want to see the highlights from the Northwestern game. All right, let's see. So, okay, we have Oklahoma lost there. All right, Clemson at 12th. See what they have going on this week. And after a nice win against Syracuse, solid there. Boston College win. Those are in the highlights, I believe. And let's see. Well, no, they're not in the highlights, but just 2 nice wins against Syracuse and Boston College. Solid wins, 18, 20-point wins is always nice. But the huge matchup of the week is against Florida State. This will decide the fate of the Atlantic Division. Mainly FSU and Clemson are at the top of that division, as you'll see here later on, and will help shape who will eventually perhaps end up in the ACC championship game, which is always interesting there. Here is my boys, FSU. We had a nice win against BC. You can see those in the highlights, 48-13. Also, we had a pretty decent win against the Terps. Definitely shut those guys down. Kept them out of the end zone. And we got a nice win for it, 49-7. And obviously the matchup is at Clemson, so we'll see how this one turns out. Hopefully we can pull out a nice win there. All right, now we have Oklahoma State still in the top 20 here. They're hanging out. after the loss against West Virginia, they bounced back with a nice win against Kansas State. You can check out the highlights of both of those games, and those are in highlights episode 1, so check that out. They had a pretty tough matchup against West Virginia, which they lost, and an easy win against K-State. Let's see, so Oregon, looks like they'll be playing Washington State this week, and they had some extremely high-scoring games. 60-54 win against Colorado, and at Washington they went into overtime. Took overtime to beat them. They won by 3, 55-52, and they're playing Washington State, which would probably be another high-scoring game because they love to throw the ball as well. Oklahoma State, they have TCU. I want to mention that. That should be a huge matchup. Also, TCU is not ranked, but they are a pretty solid team. So we'll see. That should, help Oklahoma State out if they can win, or it could hurt them if they lose as far as them having a shot to win the Big 12. All right, then following up here just in the top 20, right at 20, is Cal. Cal has broken into the top 25, and as we're looking here, they have 4 straight wins. I mean, a nice upset of Ohio State. Also, they upset Oregon. Nice win there by 20 points, and then they beat Washington State. Still a lot of scoring. That's the Pac-12. Hardly no defense going on there, so you're going to see a lot of high scores for the Pac-12. That's just the way it is. All right, so rounding things out, looks like everything. Miami is not in the top 25 this week. We'll take a look at them in the conference schedule, in the conference standings, to see what they're up to. In the media poll, looks like it's pretty much the same. Looks like Clemson is actually ahead of Ohio State here in the media poll, so they like Clemson over Ohio State. Interesting. And I'm kind of in the same spot, couple steps ahead of Oklahoma, who fell off a little bit. So the media poll really liking Clemson and Florida State. That's good for us. It's good for the ACC. Let's see. So that's it for that. All right, so let's go into the conference standings, and let's take a look at the ACC. I'm pretty sure that's going to pop up first. Yep, and as you see here, Clemson's leading the Atlantic Division, closely followed by Florida State. The matchup that we have is huge. We're both undefeated in the division and the conference, so it should be interesting. Moving over to the Coastal, there's Miami at 6, not doing too well as you see there. They've had 2 straight losses back to back. Got to be disheartening for UConn, the Miami coach. Huge loss to Georgia Tech, 45-17. They're looking pretty scary, I would think. And let's see, they also had a loss at South Florida. So 2 huge losses. Maybe they can bounce back against North Carolina. They're at North Carolina. That may not be an easy matchup for them, but we'll see what happens. Okay. All right, so let's see what's going on in some of the other conferences here. All right, so in the SEC East, looks like Florida is top there. Then the SEC West, LSU is behind Texas A&M. So this will be pretty interesting. If LSU and Florida can continue to win, and they could possibly meet in the SEC championship game, depending on if LSU can get past Texas A&M. And you also have Alabama there still looming too. So it's going to be an interesting road for LSU to get into the SEC title game. All right. So let's check out the Pac-12. California, they're moving into number 2. They've beaten a few teams. Stanford is hanging in out there at number 1. Should be some interesting football left to be played here. Let's see. So in the North, you got all 2 users and Stanford all in the North. So it's going to be interesting down the stretch to see who can get into the Pac-12 championship between these teams. Obviously, California has an edge over Oregon because they've beaten them. But, hey, still a lot of football left to be played, so we'll see what happens. Keep moving on here. Let's go into the Big Ten. Iowa's leading. They're in the top 10, undefeated. You have Michigan followed up here in Ohio State. Now let's check out the divisions. Ohio State is leading the leaders division. Looks like they may have this wrapped up unless Penn State can come up and dethrone them. Illinois hasn't still undefeated as well, but Penn State probably be their biggest threat, I would say. In the legends, Iowa's leading right now. Michigan's following, then you have Nebraska. So pretty tough there, sledding for a lot of those teams. We'll see who ends up being in the Big Ten championship game. All right, Big 12, which does not have a championship game, so this does not bode well for Oklahoma State, who's in the middle of the pack at 5th. Still a lot of football to be played, but right now Texas, Kansas, and Oklahoma still on the schedule, and West Virginia having an edge over them after beating them does make things a little tougher for Oklahoma State, but we'll see what they can do. And it looks like that will be it for the conferences. So let's take a look at the Heisman race, see what's popping off there. Should be interesting. Take a look. So let's see here. It looks like Jeremy Hill is still leading the pack, even after getting shut down by Florida. Only had 32 yards rushing, or 51 yards rushing. I'm sorry, 32 yards receiving. So he had a total of 80 yards, I guess, but that's not Heisman numbers. We'll see if there will be some changes next week. Johnny Manziel still hanging in there. He's had a pretty solid outing. 202 yards, 110 rushing yards, 200 yards passing, and 4 touchdowns. Braxton Miller dropped a little bit. Looks like he still had a solid game, but I guess just not Heisman caliber enough. 3 total touchdowns, 23 carries, 105 yards. And so Mariota, he's moving up, just putting up some ridiculous passing numbers here. 27 to 35 for 387 yards. Had some yards rushing as well, and 4 total TDs. Devontae Freeman, he's in here. My boy did pretty well against the Terps, but we had a bye week, so that probably made him slide a little bit. But hopefully he'll have a great game against Clemson, and we can get him back in there. All right, so that's it for the Heisman. Now let's look at the Players of the Week real quick, and we'll get into that. And so looking at this here, let's see. Let's just drop back to week 6. So looks like on defense, cornerback senior B.J. Lowry, 2 tackles and 4 interceptions. Yeah, that's against Michigan State. Helped them win 23-21. That's a pretty good job for that cornerback. And here we have Jeremy Hill on the offensive side. I mean, look at these numbers. 28 carries, 243 yards, 5 touchdowns. Wow, beast guy against Mississippi State. Didn't bode too well against Florida, though, so we'll have to see what happens. Week 7, we have Auburn defensive end senior D. Ford. Several tackles, 10 tackles for a loss, and 5 sacks against FCS West. Okay, that's confusing. 28-14 they won, but yeah, he got Player of the Week on defense. On offense, we have Vlad Lee. Look at him coming in here for not very good passing yards, but carries. Jesus, for a quarterback, 32 carries, 164 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I guess this is what happens when you run an option, huh? All right. So I think that's it for this week update. This update number 4, I believe. So this is it for that. Appreciate you guys watching. If you like this content, please subscribe. I'm definitely be posting some more updates, and we're going to kind of look at next update. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go into a little bit more scouting, see what all the coaches are doing. So look forward to showing you guys that. Continue to watching. Thanks, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.